Listen to your heart, tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe. Listen to your heart, tell me that you understand. Cause you are the one for me. If you just believe, 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 Listen to your heart, 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 heart. Listen to your heart, 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 heart. Listen to your heart, tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe. Listen to your heart, tell me that you understand. Cause you are the one for me. You just believe. You just believe. You just believe. You just believe. Listen to your heart, tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe.
And look at that. Here I am again. I've teleported onto my own channel this time. Big up to all of you joining us from LB stream. Always a pleasure chatting to my guy LB. Hope you're all doing very well. 80 of you locked in. Hit that thumbs up button, man. If you're new around here, make sure you're subscribed. Join the army, man. We're on the road to 10k. That's the next big goal. We need another city channel on 10k. We need the city channels all to get bigger. Support all the city channels. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe here. Help us get to 10k. Hit that like button. Link in the chat for anybody who wants to be a channel member. We're going to chat a little bit JOAO Neves, a bit more about Dani Olmo. We didn't speak too much about these kind of things on LB's show. We were just chatting about Walker, the Rodri backup thing. So that's kind of interlinked with Neves. We're going to chat about Savio as well, because we actually haven't spoke properly about Savio on this channel yet. But as they've just been knocked out of Copa America, apparently, it's looking like it's going to be formalized in the next few days, which is great, because I'd imagine he'll come to America with us. So yeah, Savio, Neves, Olmo, and whatever else you guys want to chat about, fire it into the chat, and myself and Joe will be happy to talk about whatever you want. Big up Sai in the chat, Briggsy, Dylan, Fraser, AK4P, Briggsy, Beyond Belief, Justin, good to see you all. Make sure you've hit that like button on your way in, and subscribe if you're new around here. Joe, we haven't spoken in a few days. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a few days because it's just so boring, to be honest. Like, the Euros is kind of petering out, isn't it? Where there's only been a couple of games on every day for the last, sort of while. There's only going to be one game a day for the rest of the Euros. So even though, the football itself, by the way, is pretty boring for the most part, but it's just one of them where, because these international tournaments are going on, we're just kind of slowly grinding along. There's no real concrete transfer. There's transfer rumours, but there's no real concrete transfer negotiations, because most of the top players are still playing football. So it's a bit slow, but when there's news, you kind of jump on it, because every opportunity you get, regardless of how slow it is and how boring it is, we've got to talk about the news. And there has been some news, which is refreshing, because again, the last couple of days has just been radio silence.
Radio silence. But look, it's important to keep in touch with the community. All of you lot in the chat, like I said, hit that like button. 100 people here. Right, let's start with this Neves guy. I'm not gonna lie, before I even saw this, I was like, I like Neves. I was impressed with him for Portugal, and I've been impressed with him for Benfica whenever I've watched them. I watched them a little bit this season. I think he's good. I think he's a competent young player. Big up City Extra say Manchester City identify 100 million euro midfielder wanted by Manchester United as transfer priority amid Kevin De Bruyne uncertainty. But they played different positions, so I'm not sure what the correlation is there, Joe. Can you make it out?
No, I guess it's just headline, I suppose, because one's a 6 and one's a 10. It's completely different. Maybe it's, I don't know, are they trying to put two and two together and go, well, De Bruyne might play deeper and, there's JOAO Neves is a deeper player? Maybe.
Fraser says in the chat that it's a 120 million release clause, and that's what they're looking for. Before we deep dive into it, what are your overall thoughts on this Neves kid? Obviously, very young, new on the scene. Do you know what kind of vibes I'm getting off Neves? I'm getting the same vibes we got about what's that fucker called? Plays for Chelsea. Enzo Fernandez. Enzo, when he was at Benfica, I'm getting similar vibes about Neves and the kind of rise he's on. It seems these Benfica guys, they rise to stardom really quickly, and then Benfica try to capitalize on that hype around the player and get you to pay outrageous money. Enzo was never a 100 million pound player. He was never a 100 million pound player. Is Neves a 100 million pound player right now? No. But right now, people, we are in a market where people pay stupid money for potential. You know what I'm saying? I get potential is worth money, but is it worth the money we're talking about? Probably not. We paid for potential with Vardiol, and I think that was good business because it wasn't like stupid money, but he's still an established player who still has a lot more room to go. Is Neves that guy yet? I mean, Dream MV says JOAO Neves is him. Joe, is he him?
Well, if I'm going to be honest straight off the bat, I don't watch the Portuguese league.
Come on, man. Culture yourself.
Listen, I've watched a handful of games, and majority of them have been for Portugal. And the one thing that I will say about international football is I never, ever get ahead of myself, because I have seen too many times over the years where you've seen, how many times, right, have you seen a player play well internationally, get a big move, completely flop? James Rodriguez comes to mind instantly. Great international tournament, gets a money move to Madrid, and it just didn't work out. So I'm always a bit skeptical when I see him play for his country, but I see things that I like, but I'm a bit skeptical because 120 million for a 19-year-old whose only experience or main experience is in the Portuguese league. It's just, I'm a little bit skeptical, if I'm going to be honest. He might not be a bad player, but 120 million, is that the best that we can do? Is there not an option?
Martin says in the chat that Bernardo gets his Benfica move and we don't lose for free. So technically Neves becomes 70 million. But as I said on LB show, I'll say it to you here, Joe. If we let Bernardo go on the basis that we're going to get a cheaper deal for JOAO Neves, we have to go back into the market anyway to go and get a replacement for Bernardo. Yeah.
So I don't really see that being the case. Like I get the correlation because Bernardo Silva does want to end up back at Benfica, but again, if Bernardo Silva goes, then we're going to need another attacking option, whether that be a wide player. Obviously we might speak about Olmo, Eze, these type of players, but we'll have to dip back into the market. So technically speaking, it's still 120 million, whichever way you look at it, because we're going to have to still spend to replace Bernardo. So I'm a little bit skeptical. If I'm not mistaken, he's a little bit on the smaller side, which doesn't, it's not really a good thing for a 6. How's he going to deal with physicality? I really don't know. But again, on the other side, I'm kind of flipping that and going, we have a great track record of signing Benfica players. We just do. We have an excellent track record. So if they've identified this guy as someone who is worth, for the future, because again, 120 million is a lot to pay, but he's only 19. So that's a long time that you're going to be able to potentially have this guy for. So if they think that he is good enough, and going to get better and worth paying 120 million for, the release clause, then that's the other side of me going, we have a great track record of signing players from Benfica. Ederson, we signed from Benfica. Ruben Diaz, we signed from Benfica. We've got other players who've been at Benfica. Bernardo Silva, we didn't sign him from there, but he is, another player from the Benfica system. So I'm a little bit conflicted. But if Pep and the club have decided that this is their guy,
I'm gonna cut you off here, Joe, because I'm gonna give you some information that might impact your thought process here a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
So he's played 4,303 minutes this season across all competitions. Now, he's played 41 times as a defensive midfielder, 9 times as a central midfielder, and 3 times as a right midfielder. Proceed.
So are we saying a little bit of versatility there? I mean, right midfielder seems a little bit off. Potential right back. is that something? Are we going to speak about right backs? I hate having conversations about right backs at the moment. But I'm just looking, and he's a proper defensive midfielder, and we have a need for one. I'm just very skeptical of the price. If we're not willing to pay 100 for Bruno, why would we be willing to pay 120 for JOAO NEVES, who is, I get it, younger. Potentially they view him as having a higher ceiling, but Bruno was the guaranteed hit. JOAO NEVES is there's a little bit of uncertainty as to how he's actually going to get on, and you're paying more for him. So I don't really know what to think. I don't think he's a bad player whatsoever. I'm just looking at the price tag and going, I just don't see a world in which you turn your nose up at 100 for Bruno and look at JOAO NEVES for 120 and go, yeah, that's a bit of me.
What age is this guy? He's 19 years old.
He'd be 20 by the start, or pretty much start of the season, I think.
For some reason, I can see City being interested in this. I can see City liking this. You know, because I think it ticks a multitude of boxes. The defensive midfielder side of things, he's played as a centre midfielder, so you put two and two together, he can obviously play in a double pivot. The right midfielder thing as well. I don't know why I can see City liking this. Is agent is Jorge Mendes, okay. I can see City liking this. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to Joe. Probably doesn't make a huge amount of sense to any of you guys why we would turn our nose up at the money for Bruno when, you know, Neves would probably cost a little bit more. I just get the feeling City like this, a 19-year-old. But would Neves want this? Would Neves want this? Is Neves in the market to leave Benfica? Does he want to leave Benfica right now, where he's clearly thriving? He's cutting his teeth very well. He's building up his profile in the game. We've seen a lot of Benfica players leave too early and it not work out, or they didn't reach their full potential. I'm even talking about João Felix here. You know what I mean? When João Felix was at Benfica, he was touted as the next fucking whatever, best thing since sliced bread, and he never really quite hit his peak. Enzo Fernandez, I think he left too soon. Will Neves be encouraged to stay at Benfica, or will the money be too tempting and they try to push him out? And will he want to come to Manchester City? Does he want to go to somewhere where Rodri is there, where De Bruyne is there, where Kovacic, Foden, these guys are there? And will City actually be like, yeah, you can have Bernardo as long as we can have Mendes and give you, or Neves and give you 70 million? As me and LB agreed on the show before, Joe, I don't know about you, but us giving them 70 million and Bernardo Silva for Neves seems like we're getting scammed. I can't lie.
Well, yeah, because again, we raised the point that even though on the books it'll look like 70 million, or on the books it might be, because obviously with the way these swaps happen, it's like Cancelo. We still paid 60 for Cancelo, but of course it kind of looks like, what was it, 20 and Danilo going the other way, but he was still 60 paid. Like, we'll still be paying 120 million. We'll still activate the release clause, and they'll just activate Bernardo's. But because when you look at net spend, because that's what people like to do nowadays, it'll go down to 70. So you're paying 70 million for JOAO NEVES still, who again, relatively untested, bit of a gamble, and then you're going to have to dip into the market again to replace Bernardo Silva. So you're still actually spending that money on replacing Bernardo Silva. So it's not really any different. Would you rather, would you rather 120 million to spend, buy JOAO NEVES outright, or save a bit of money on him, but then go and have to replace Bernardo Silva with the rest of that 50? It just makes very little sense to go and do that. I understand where people are coming from when they make the correlation, but it's backwards. For me, it's backwards. I don't get why you would do that, because like we're in a position now where you let Bernardo Silva go, there's your starting right winger gone. You know, we've got Savio coming in, but do you trust him to play 50 games next season and, you know, tear it up and be the main guy on the right? Again, I ain't saying Savio's a bad player either, but you know what I mean? Like, the Bernardo Silva is a surefire answer. And again, versatility. He can play pretty much anywhere. Bernardo Silva's played at left back, goodness sake. Like, come on now. I don't get it. I'm just very skeptical of all of this news. I know he's got connections because he's Portuguese, and Bernardo Silva speaks highly of him. And most top clubs seem to have their name linked to him, but I'm just so... I just doubt it very much. Again, 120 million. If you're not paying 100 for Bruno, it's just... It doesn't make sense whatsoever.
I mean, Tones in the chat says PSG are faves for Kimmich, only team that have inquired reportedly. I'm going to get onto that now in a second because I think that is quite interlinked. I'm just going to have a look at this member chat and the super chat. Big up Piplup with a £2. Good to see you, Piplup. I saw you on LB stream. I know. His hello, lads. Hugh hates the Irish. Hugh is Irish, and Hugh's very proud to be Irish, Piplup. You can put your list of people that I allegedly hate away and stop adding to it. Do you know what I mean? Stop adding to it. I don't have that much hate in my heart. Big up to you, Piplup. Big up Bevo. I saw your message on WhatsApp, Bevo. I'll give you a message back after. Member for 4 months. Big up to you, supporting for 4 months. Link in the chat if anybody else wants to help support and be a channel member. Says, hey lads, whoever we buy needs to be right. I think right now, Kimmich feels like the right one. For me, Kimmich feels like the right one. That's on the basis that the Bruno G thing is dead. For me, Kimmich feels like the right one, but we're not acting on it, or at least we're not told we're acting on it. As Tone says, PSG are the only club to have inquired reportedly. That's being proactive. That's showing the initiative that you want the player. That's going in there. We can't wait around. Like, I'm at a point now where I'm like, look, I'm actually not going to stress too much over who it is, but make sure you fucking get someone. Get someone to protect and help Rodri, because you saw his quotes today, Joe. I'm sure it simply can't carry on like this. If Bruno can't happen, I feel like it should be Kimmich. But is that something City are going to do? I don't know.
Well, it doesn't look likely, does it? But again, this is all interlinked with JOAO Neves. Kimmich is at the very maximum, given the situation regarding his contract and him basically wanting to leave. At the very maximum is going to be half of the price at the maximum in terms of transfer fee of JOAO Neves. Are we saying that JOAO Neves is twice the player or going to be twice the player for us? That's kind of where I'm at. If JOAO Neves is not like tearing up trees for 120 million, it's not worth it, is it? Like, if he's not directly contributing, which again, it depends how highly City viewed this guy, because again, he's very much a future signing. He's only 19. So you're getting a lot of years out of him. But for me, Kimmich is that if we want to make ourselves better in terms of improve the squad, then Kimmich is the signing over JOAO Neves. He's more likely to make the squad better. In my opinion, he's older, he's more experienced, he's more versatile than JOAO Neves. He ticks every single box that you want from a Pep Guardiola player in terms of being able to play multiple positions. Like, that's something that you don't turn your nose up at, and for a relatively cheap price. Okay, his wages may be a bit of an issue, but that'd be an option above JOAO Neves for me. I'm still, Bruno number one, but if that's done, so be it. Then I move on to Kimmich. That's the order that I'd go in for them for, because again, it's just a better deal, and you're not having to scramble around going, right, we'll put Bernardo Silva in here and find his replacement. No, you're not doing any of that. You're buying the player straight up for a very, very good price. You know what you're getting. Pep knows what he's getting. He's worked with him before. Again, that's something that I don't think... Well, it does get mentioned quite a bit, but when you talk about a player's fit and maybe there being a little bit of an adaptation period to a player under a Pep Guardiola system, Kimmich is less likely to suffer that because he's worked with him before. He knows what Pep is about. So there's a little bit, again, there's less room for error. I just think Neves is a gamble, and someone like Kimmich, it makes more sense. And I would have thought it would have been a more realistic target given the price, but if we're not acting on it, then he might be gone by the time that we come around to it, because if PSG want him, they're the type of club that don't mess around with signings, do they? They get on with it.
100%. Guys, make sure to hit the like button, man. Over 110 people here, and we're only on 50 likes. Hit that thumbs up button. Let's get it up to 1 million likes and help us get to 1 million subscribers. Professor is in the chat. Big up to you, Professor. He says it's looking likely Kimmich should be priority now. If Bruno G is looking less likely, Kimmich becomes the obvious choice. Well, this is it. And before that, Martin said PSG are way ahead on Kimmich. We've not even made contact. This screams to me like City aren't going to push for Kimmich. And I've been saying this to you lot for ages, and I said it on LB's show there about an hour ago. We have no link to Kimmich. There's no indication that City want Kimmich. No one has said, like, no one of any real, ilk have said City are in and desire or want Joshua Kimmich. All we're doing here is putting 2 and 2 together and saying, we need a DM or a versatile midfielder. He's worked with Pep. He's very good. We should go and get him. And I agree with that. But City haven't shown interest. Now we're reading, who even is the journalist that said this? It's on City. Freddie Pye wrote an article about this on City Extra. Where's the source? I don't even know who the source is for this. According to a Portuguese newspaper, so JOAO. So they're a Portuguese source saying we have made Neves priority. We've seen nothing like that about Kimmich. No one has said that we are in for Kimmich, even though it feels like the right one. I'm getting the feeling that City actually do view Neves as the guy we need to go and get. Now, whether you view that to be the right or the wrong thing to do, that feels to me like where we're at, Joe. I mean, where are you at with the whole Rodri backup situation right now in general? Because it's a total whirlwind, and I get more and more concerned about it when I see more and more comments coming out from Rodri about his energy levels.
I'm almost bordering on the point of I'll take anyone. I'll take anyone because we need someone. But again, it's a bit of a gamble. And again, I feel like people are doing Bernardo Silva a disservice by saying, yeah, throw him in there. I think people are doing him a disservice.
Why would we throw Bernardo in there when he still has so fucking much to offer? Bernardo, he didn't have his best season just gone, but he's still young enough to be able to cook again this season. Why would we just throw him in there and say, yeah, have Bernardo so we can have your 19-year-old project defensive midfielder? Why?
I mean, I've listed off enough positives and negatives about this JOAO Neves guy where I can see why. There's enough boxes that he ticks where I could see why. His age, the connections that he has, the experience that he's getting. He's already a Portuguese international at 19. But again, I highlight negatives. His price is through the roof. He's a little bit on the smaller side. And it's just an overall gamble in terms of how good is he actually if he's only ever played in the Portuguese league. Throw that into the mix. And if you get rid of Bernardo Silva, right? Let's say, because I've seen Martin in the chat saying that he's not going to extend again and you're going to lose him for nothing, so throw him in and get money off Neves, which I understand, but is losing him for nothing and having him for maybe another season, 2 seasons, I don't know how long that's left on his contract, is that worth more than not losing him for free and saving 50 million on a player? How much is that worth it? Because let's be honest, right? This is my opinion. Maybe some people don't agree with me, right? But if you get rid of Bernardo Silva, whoever you bring in that is available on the market, look at the names that are available. Whichever one of them you choose to bring in Bernardo Silva's place is not as good as Bernardo Silva. So for getting rid of Bernardo Silva to get yourself a bit of money off JOAO Neves, who is a gamble, and you don't know how good he's going to be, how good he is right now, if he even works in the Premier League, all of these, unknowns. You save yourself 50 million and at the same time make yourself as a side worse because you lose Bernardo Silva and the replacements that you get in for him, okay, might be good, but they're not Bernardo Silva. They don't do the work that he does. They don't fill the exact same positions that he can fill at the level that he does them. So basically, you're essentially making yourself worse to get a project defensive midfielder who may be the best thing since sliced bread, but maybe doesn't work. There's too much of a room for how good this guy actually is, how good JOAO Neves actually is, to warrant losing Bernardo Silva for me. I think the risk of JOAO Neves, his whole thing, because again, he could be great, could be phenomenal, and we look back at this and go, what were we even talking about? But what happens if it's JOAO Felix? And he just completely doesn't work. And we've just given away Bernardo Silva, made ourselves worse in that position for a guy who we paid all this money and he's not very good.
Well, this is the problem. He's a release clause of 120 million. He's on €18,000 a week. So about £12,000 a week. We could deal with the wages, no problem. But it's the 120 million release clause. For me, I just don't think it's worth losing Bernardo Silva for. With respect, we'll sign nobody then if that's the worry. Maybe no, I don't think so, because this is only a situation whereby it's just for Neves. It's just for Benfica that Bernardo would be in the conversation at all. There's probably other defensive midfielders out there. There's defensive midfielders at the club. I like that, and Piplup will like this. I like that Jacob Wright kid. Now, am I saying he's what we need right now? No. But he's similar age to JOAO Neves, just doesn't have the same profile yet because he hasn't played for Benfica. I don't know, does it warrant risking Bernardo Silva? Bernardo Silva has a lot more to give to European football, and he doesn't seem in a rush to leave the club either. And I think Bernardo is one of those players that the club are willing to allow his value to decrease on the basis of what he offers to the team. Such a unique player, play a variety of roles that which Pep absolutely loves. I believe, Joe, that he's one of those players that the club are cool with letting his transfer value go down. That we may lose him for nothing or really cheap in the future, but we got more time out of him.
That's what I'm saying. Is it worth potentially saving yourself, 50 million, or is it worth getting another 2 seasons out of Bernardo Silva with the way that he plays and the way that he contributes to the team? I'd rather keep Bernardo Silva for the player that we're going to receive on the other end that we're going to save 50 million on. I'd rather keep Bernardo Silva. I really would. I just don't. Why would you get rid of this guy? But for the work that he does, there is not a player. There are very few players in world football who can do the same things that he do. Valverde is one of them at Real Madrid. He's probably one of the He's probably one of the closest ones in terms of Bernardo Silva. I struggle to name anyone else who covers the ground that he does, whilst also doing all the other little things as well, like his versatility I've already spoken about. Like, he's played everywhere, pretty much. Apart from in goal, he's played everywhere. Like, I'm not getting rid of that, an experienced winning player who very few players can do what he does, for a project, for an unknown. I'm not totally comfortable with that, especially considering that unknown would then become our record signing. Our record signing would be some 19-year-old from Benfica. Who is he?
We won't do that.
Like, is he going to be worth that? No. Like, I get the call for a revamp, but you got to be smart about it. I mean, I want a suitable backup option who can also complement Rodri. But I'm also not looking at the situation and going, that requires spending 120 million on a 19-year-old who hasn't left Portugal. It's just and potentially losing Bernardo Silva at the same time and him going the other way and getting 50 million for him. I'm not looking at that and going, yeah, that's the answer. There has to be another option.
I know what you're saying, Martin, about when do we make the money, though. I don't think we do need to make money. I don't think we're in a position right now where we need to sell to buy. I think we're doing just fine with PSR, and I don't think we should be looking to accumulate cash to spend just to balance the books. We've heard about war chests for years. We've heard about big transfer budgets for years that never really properly got spent. And then you're talking about, look, if you do keep Bernardo Silva and you do lose him for slightly less than you would have liked in the future, maybe the trophies that you've won, the prize money kind of pays back what you would have got for Bernardo Silva, and the club's won more trophies. I think the club will weigh this up. I don't think we need to sell to buy. Essentially, right now, we're not that club right now. I think, Joe.
No, and I don't think it's a smart move. I know people are talking about, well, you've got to take risks. We are taking a risk because all the things that you hear about now is how everyone at board level, everyone is willing to just run it back. Everyone's willing to go, yeah, we're not desperate for signings. Let's just go in with the same squad. Is that not a risk? Is that not taking a risk? Going with the same squad that you went in with last season? That's a risk to me. Did we not take risks last summer? Look at the signings we made. Kovacic was relatively risk-free because it didn't cost a lot of money. But look at Mateus Nunes, Jeremy Doku. You're telling me those weren't risky signings? Those are risky signings. Doku was the complete opposite profile to the type of winger that we've been playing with for 3 years? Total opposite to what we'd been using. It was a gamble. Nunes, again, gamble. For the price we paid for him, it was a gamble. Nunes hasn't paid off. Doku probably will. So it's not like we don't take any gambles and we're not taking any risks, but we're not talking about £120 million worth of fucking gamble. That is ridiculous. To hang your hat and say, we don't totally know what we're going to get for this price. I'm okay with doing that for 50, 60. I can bear it. In today's market, I can bear it. but 120, you have to be 100% sure that this guy is going to work out. And if the club think that, then fine. I'm more than happy to see him coming. If the club think the 120 million, they know this guy is going to work, he's going to be a hit, fine. I don't support a bank. It's not my money. But I'm just skeptical. I don't think you can be certain that this is going to work out. And given the price tag, there's a risk versus reward that I think needs to come into place, where the reward is potentially huge, but so is the risk. The risk is massive because he's relatively untested at the elite level, which is what we play at. He'll be coming in for 120 million and be expected to make an impact instantly. He'll be expected to just fit in like a glove. No questions asked for that price. And for, what he's been brought in to do. He'll be, no questions. If Rodri needs a rest, you're in, you do your job, you play well. That is the expectation when he comes in, and he's 19. Is that not a little bit unfair also? Again, this could be potentially Pep's last season. I don't think we should be supplying this guy with unknowns and projects while he's still here. I don't think that's a good idea.
I agree. We have another member chat and a super chat to get through here. Guys, another reminder to hit that like button, man. Hit the thumbs up button. We're 30 away from 100, so if you just double check you've hit it, we can help get to 100. And subscribe if you're new around here. Big up Bree, member for 3 months, says, isn't there a deal to be done? Who's offering 120? Let me check how long he has left again, because I don't think they need to sell. Neves, yeah, he's got 4 years left, so they can hold on and say, yeah, we want 120. Do you know what I mean? They can hold on to him as long as they want, or for another at least 2 years, and kind of go, we want 120. Maybe come back in 2 years when he's 21, and we'll try and negotiate a cheaper fee. But I can see someone going in, maybe PSG if the Kimmich thing doesn't work out. I don't know. It's a lot. Big up Piplup with the £2. If Hugh watches the academy, I'll delete the list. I'll tell you what, Piplup, during the season, you give me an academy game to watch, and we'll do a watch along for it. We'll do a watch along for it here, and we can watch the academy together, and we can chat about the top academy players and give them the attention and praise they deserve. So how about that for a deal? And then you get rid of that list, because that list is getting too long. Right, where were we with Neves? Where were we? Yeah, look, I don't know. I get it in a way. I mean, some people in the chat are saying maybe get him in for really long term. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, maybe he won't be the cooker that you want right now, but you know what I mean, with a new manager maybe in the next year or two, the new manager can work with him as well. He's a proper long-term player, and I get what you're saying, Martin, about from the club's point of view. I'm not too arsed about the club's point of view right now. I'm very much looking at it from what we can see, and what we can see is Rodri needs him right now. You know what I'm saying? Rodri needs whoever comes in has to be him. That guy, a big player, importance, knows his role, knows how to handle these big situations and handle the responsibility of the task at hand. For me, it doesn't make sense, even though I can see City being interested in this. I get your point of view, Martin. Trust me, I get your point of view. And that's why, as I said at the top of this, I can see City taking a liking to this. But is it what Pep needs? Is it what Rodri needs? No. Absolutely not. Oh, here he is now with a £20 super chat. Joe, hit the sound button for £20. Big up to you, Martin. You didn't have to do that, man. He says, I get what you're all saying, but De Bruyne has 11 months. Letting Musiala is 130 minimum plus his wages. Bernardo replacement over 60 to 70 plus wages. We don't get fees for Phillips and Cancelo plus Stones plus Jack. We will be able to sell Phillips. He has 3 Premier League clubs looking at him right now. Now, whether they're loans or whether they're buys, we don't know. Cancelo has to be sold because he's not going to play for us. I don't know does anybody want him for a loan. Stones, I don't know. Jack Grealish, I think, will ultimately sell at some point. It won't be this summer. I hope it's not next summer either, but it all depends on this season. I get it about the De Bruyne thing with 11 months, Musiala 130 minimum. I think regardless of whether De Bruyne leaves this summer or next summer, we're going to have to go out and spend big money anyway. And I think the club have been preparing for this for years, like knowing that at some point we're going to have to splash big cash on a big dog player. And that may be Musiala, but it's going to be a De Bruyne replacement. So I think they've had this money saved up. I don't think you start the summer on like a zero and you have to earn the money. It goes... And then to spend, it goes, you know, the club will have money saved up anyway, Joe.
Well, I hope so, because the amount of times we've heard war chest and done fuck all with it, I'd hope that the money was still sitting in an account somewhere. We can access it and we can buy someone. So maybe that is the plan. And again, I guess that'd be another reason not to go out and spend 120 on JOAO Neves is takes a significant chunk out of the war chest. You want to keep all them funds available for a potential Kevin De Bruyne replacement because, I mean, that's going to be the main area of importance next. I know the 6 is like, we're begging for one. We need one desperately for the sake of Rodri's like hamstrings, knees, whatever, right?
Life.
Yeah, for his life. But doesn't have to be like record-breaking fees for that one. You can find suitable for less. With De Bruyne, you're talking about replacing, like flat-out replacing. With Rodri, we just talk about backup. But with De Bruyne, we're talking about flat-out replacing one of the best ever in his position. So yeah, I'd want to spend a bit more cash on that bit, but I just don't know. I guess, again, I'm not a fan of a bank. If we can afford it and they want him, go for it. Like I'm not going to say no, because again, at the end of the day, if we do turn around and sign him, I trust the club have got this right. Because more often than not, they get the transfers right. But all I'm saying is, from my point of view, where I'm sat here, I wouldn't be like begging for it and going, yeah, he's my number one target. Far from it. Again, it's too much of a risk. And again, if we're thinking Kevin De Bruyne has got 12 months left, listen, with the current financial rules in place, you save up a bit of cash, go get a big hitter there instead. Because that is, again, we're talking about replacing De Bruyne. We're only talking about a backup to Rodri. We're not talking about replacing him. It's just a backup. Someone who can play in that role, play beside him, come in every now and then. With De Bruyne, again, different situation. Completely replacing one of the greatest of all time in his position. So, again, I'd kind of lean more towards that. If we can save money getting a holding midfielder, great. And again, that's why I got to Kimmich, because it's not like, I hate this. It's almost like a FIFA career mode or football manager sort of. As soon as a player reaches 30, he's finished. Like, I don't care if Kimmich is, 29, something like that. Maybe 30, I don't know his exact age, right? But late 20s, right? I don't care if he's that. He can still play for another 4 or 5 years. He's still got another 3, 4, 5 years potentially in him at the top level, Kimmich. For a cheaper, you know what you're getting. It's a better option, in my opinion. But if it comes down to it, we can't get Bruno. Because his release clause is gone. We can't get Kimmich because he goes to PSG. Maybe we don't have another option. But then it comes down to you're looking at Adam Wharton, who again, similar position, much cheaper, but similar position. You don't know exactly what you're getting. And it's a bit of a gamble. I don't think that one's a release clause either. I'm just trying to stay. You know what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to stay consistent with my views. I've already said about things when we talk about Xavi Alonso, when we talk about players like Savio, Adam Wharton, all these players, it's one season. Mm-hmm. If I'm paying 120 million, I want more than one good season. I want like credit in the bank here. I want, a track record. I think, again, more uncertainty. If this was, I know he's 19, so it's impossible, but if he'd already been playing at this level for maybe 2-3 seasons, maybe I'd be more for it. But again, it's a risk. After one good season, hanging your hat, putting all your eggs in one basket for, something after one good season, again, it's another risk.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Big up to you, Martin, for the super chat. Leave that super chat up on screen, Joe, because I think we're kind of related to what we're going to talk about next. I think that's possibly the biggest super chat we've ever had. £20, Joe? Would it be the biggest we've ever had?
If we would have had more, I would have remembered it. Yeah. I don't think so.
Remember, Martin's a great friend of us here on the channel, So whenever we disagree or we have debates, it's always in good nature. He knows his stuff, Martin. Do you know what I mean? So you can't dismiss what he's saying. And he's right to raise the point of view from the club as well, because it is a factor. It is a factor, and us as fans, we're very much from a fan point of view, which I am. You know what I mean? More often than not, but he is right to talk about these things, and it makes for a great conversation. So make sure you check out his channel, by the way, people. He has these conversations as well on his channel with his guys, the Mancunian Way. Make sure to go subscribe to the Mancunian Way, man. Martin's a great guy, and we appreciate him for the super chats and joining us whenever he comes on here, and all that good stuff. Piplup as well here with the 5. Big up to you, Piplup. He says lots of people want Neves after watching 0 Benfica games. It's a less or it's a less of a risk to use a DM from our academy. Sissoko, right, as they know our style. This is another point of view. We're going to get Martin's super chat back up to talk about the Kevin De Bruyne thing because it's very much related. But this is a point of view that people don't take on board very often. And it probably goes against what I've been preaching a lot, which is that I want a guaranteed hitter, a backup, or not a backup, like a guaranteed Premier League, hopefully proven, standard player who can help and complement Rodri. But people don't look at your Jacob Wrights and your Sissokos. Jacob Wright is a defensive midfielder. I mean, is there any part of you, Joe, that says maybe give him an opportunity? It's hard. It's hard, but I do get it. I do get what people are saying.
It would save you a hell of a lot of cash, for one.
It would.
And again, I get the point of we have this philosophy where our underage level teams, under 20, our EDS, under 23s, under 18s, they all play the same style. It's an ethos. It's built in the club now. This is the style of play we have, and they all play it. So that's why when we have academy players come up and actually start to play, they look like they kind of understand what's going on because they've already played it, of course, at a much, lesser level, but they've already played it. They've already been bled with this system. This is the thing that we do. So I get it. They would probably have a better understanding of exactly what goes down. They've been in and around first team training, in and around match day squads as well, couple of appearances for the both of them. So I get it. But still an unrealistic expectation. We know what happens with young players from the academy. Look at Oscar Bob, Phil Foden, Cole Palmer before he left. They start on the bench. They may start a couple of games the next season. They might start 10 games next season. They might start, 25 in and around, one of the first names off the bench. And then they get their opportunity to start week in, week out. It takes, usually about 3 years if, they're at the level, maybe 3 years before they're really one of the first team, plays in the first team. And maybe this season you can say this was, that first step. They were on the bench at times, couple of appearances in, certain games which allowed them to make appearances. So maybe you're looking at next season potentially. They're on the bench every week. And maybe they're coming off the bench every now and then. Maybe get a couple of cup games. Maybe a dead rubber Champions League games if we have one. I don't know how that new system works. But it's going to be a few years before we see either of those get the opportunity. It just is. That's just a fact. Like, I get where you're coming from, but it's just unrealistic. And again, it's a risk because everything regarding this holding midfield position is a risk. Because if we go with the academy and it doesn't work out, Rodri's going to have to play 60 games. If we go for a signing and it doesn't work out, he's going to have to play 60 games. And if we don't sign anyone, he's going to have to play 60 games.
Well, that's why we keep talking about Bruno G and Kimmich, don't we? That's why all of you who clearly you all realize that Bruno G is pretty well off, or it's off as of right now, you've all turned your attention to Kimmich. Because these are the lowest risk players in terms of the upcoming season. If you're thinking longer term, Piplup, yeah, Jacob Wright maybe. If you're thinking longer term, yeah, JOAO Neves maybe. But in terms of factoring in everything going into the season, which as of right now is Pep's last season, as of right now, you want the lowest risk, don't you? You want the highest output. You want the most guaranteed, the most sustainability. And that's your Kimmiches and your Bruno Gs. But people, like I said, I promise you, we're going to do a watch along this season, or a few watch alongs. Why not, for the academy? I used to watch the academy a lot when I was younger, around the Foden, Sancho days, Brahim Diaz days. But I kind of stopped recently. But yeah, we'll get back into it, man. We'll do a few watch alongs for them. Big up to you. I know you're a big fan of the academy, people, and it's always great when you chip in with your thoughts and reminding us of these players, because it is important when you have a top academy to recognize them at least and have the conversations. So big up to you, Piplup, for your super chats. Right, get Martin's super chat back up on screen, Joe, because I do want to talk about the attacking side of things. This is where Dani Olmo comes into the question or the conversation. We're 20 likes off 100 people. Double check, you've hit that thumbs up button and just hit it, man. It really, really does help. We're trying to make as much content as possible, even though there's not a huge amount always to talk about throughout the summer, or particularly during the Euros. So all your support really does help. Super chats, memberships, likes, subscribes, shares. So make sure you're subscribed and hit that like button. Right, let's talk about De Bruyne and Olmo. Let's kind of link this together, because I said on LB's show about an hour ago, Joe, that I would like one more attacking style player who's versatile, maybe, which Olmo is. Play through the middle, play further out wide, plays a 10, plays an 8, whatever. I would like one more because I think people aren't paying enough attention to the fact that De Bruyne is very injury prone. First and foremost, he's very injury prone. Second of all, he's not going to be able to play 90 minutes 2-3 times a week. Then what are you left with? You're left with Foden, you're left with Kovacic, you're left with Matheus Nunes, and you're left with Bernardo Silva, who spends most of his time as a right winger these days. Who are the two you really trust there? Mainly Foden because he's a midfielder, but then Bernardo slightly less because he's a winger more so nowadays. I would like one more in there to complement and supplement De Bruyne. We're talking about complement and supplement Rodri, which is the main priority, but slightly less so. I do think we need to complement and supplement Kevin De Bruyne too. Is Dani Olmo, he's doing a lot to raise his profile at the minute in the Euros, is he someone that we should be looking at? I don't know. I saw Eze. Eze was linked today. I'm not sure how serious that is. He's on a big contract at Palace in terms of length, but he's on 100 grand a week. Eze and Olmo, are they the kind of players we should be looking at? I think yes. I said earlier on I would prefer Eze, and I stand by that. I would prefer Eze, but should we be looking at these kind of players to give us that different style and an injection of energy or pace when, you know, we're on 60, 70, 80 minutes and we need another midfielder to come on? Like, you look at previous years when we've had Gundogan's, De Bruyne's, Foden's and Bernardo's all in the kind of midfield. There would always be one or two of them on the bench could come on and make an impact on the game. I'm not sure we have that right now. If you have Foden, De Bruyne starting as the 2-8s or one as a 10, one as an 8, you have Kovacic who can come on. But he's not a goal getter. He's not going to crash the box and get you a winner or add something different going forward. He'll calm it down. He'll defensively be solid enough to be fair to him. Where is that attacking difference maker? Where is that goal getter if you're in need of a different type of midfielder? I don't think we have it right now. Do you know what I'm saying, Joe?
It was supposed to be Matheus Nunes, but he never got the chance. He just never got the chance, did he? So, maybe signing another attacking player depends on being able to sell Nunes as well. Because there's talk about him going to Saudi and having interest from over there. I just think that with the current setup we've got now, we've also, you know, if we're going to sign a 6 or, you know, a holding midfield player, because we need one. If we're going to sign one, it means we'd have that new 6, Rodri, Kovacic, Nunes, Foden, De Bruyne, Bernardo. Like, there's enough cover in the midfield. Even if you think that some of it isn't good enough, there's enough bodies. We'd have to get rid of one, I think, to sign a forward player. Especially when you factor in the wide areas. You've got Grealish, you've got Doku, you've got Savio coming in. Bernardo's mainly going to probably play out in the wider positions now. In terms of on the right, you've got Oscar Bob. I would also agree with you that I would like another attacking option, but I do think it depends on being able to sell Matheus Nunes. Because right now, when you speak about that other player coming off the bench in an attacking area that might affect the game, regardless of how good you think he is, that is Matheus Nunes right now. He doesn't get the opportunity a lot, but that is essentially who we have, because he was bought after we sold Cole Palmer. So he was, technically speaking, the Cole Palmer replacement. So that's what we've got right now. And in terms of which one I'd prefer out of Olmo and Eze, I would prefer Eze as well. But I think Olmo is a more City player. I think he's much more about what City like. I think, you know, Eze can play off the left in the number 10. I'm not sure about as a number 8 or off the right. I know he's not really played too much off the right, because, you know, when he was at Palace, it was Elise on that side. With Olmo, he can play 8, 10, left, right. Is a bit more, you know, guaranteed versatility. No doubt Pep would shove Eze anyway. He'd probably shove him at left back because he's crazy. So, again, in terms of what I want, I'd rather Eze. They're both around the same price. I know Eze's got a 60 million release clause. But my preference is Eze. Again, I read too much into it, but the Bundesliga's a little bit streaky when it comes to signing players from there. I know our Bundesliga signings have been phenomenal, and we normally get them right. Again, this is another point that I was saying with JOAO Neves is, you know, we normally get signings right, even, you know, from leagues that don't have a particularly high success rate. So it doesn't really bother me too much that he's coming from the Bundesliga, because, again, if City have done their research, more often than not, our Bundesliga signings are great. But for me, Eze, Premier League proven, England international. He's probably more up my street, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at Dani Olmo here for the season. He played 1,700 minutes. He had one injury that kept him out for 4 games, another injury that kept him out for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, another injury that kept him out for 2 games, another injury that kept him out for 2, then one for 1, 2, 3, then one for 1, then one for 1. A lot of injuries. Now, I can see why he's appealing to Manchester City, because he's played as an attacking mid, played on the left wing, and he spent most of his time on the right wing this season for Leipzig. The injuries have to be factored in. I know we like to believe that when injury-prone players come to our club, we can always, help them with their injuries and we can improve their injury record. But if he's that injury-prone, is he someone that we should really be taking on board? I don't know. Then you got Eze. Big up JTI. Good to see you. Then you got Eze, who Piplup said is also homegrown. I don't know. Are either of these players the kind of players that we need? Are they the profiles that we need? The versatility that we need? Maybe. It's just hard to put your finger on it. I mean, once again, the most obvious one would be Musiala, but it's just so hard to pull off, isn't it? I don't think that's not going to happen this summer. Could we do it further down the line? Maybe. But a lot can change. A lot of water has to go under the bridge between now and next summer when we're more likely to get Musiala, Vinny could smash it at Bayern Munich. Vincent Kompany could win them Bundesliga, could win them a Champions League, or get very far in the Champions League and, showing a lot of progression. And then all of a sudden Musiala's going, you know what? I fucking like it here. I'll take that new contract off you. And Project Vinny is great. So a lot can change between now and next summer. Is this summer a time we should be looking at getting an extra attacking midfielder in? I feel yes. I do feel yes, but I just don't know who. No one jumps out at me like Musiala does. No one jumps out at me and goes, that's our guy. Eze, I like Eze, but it doesn't hit me in the face and go, that's what we need. Olmo, I like him on the pitch. When I see him, I like him, but it doesn't hit me and go, that's what we need. It's just so hard to do right now, Joe, especially when we're getting no information, no fucking news, no nothing.
Yeah, that's the kicker, isn't it? We're all going, what about signing this guy? What about signing that guy? We've seen this guy's name about. But from the club side, from any, reputable source on the club side, nothing. It's just business as usual. At the moment, we're going into the next season with the same squad that we ended the last season with, which is a little bit concerning. We've added Savio, and that's it. We've added Savio because he was a pretty easy option, played for Troyes, who were in the CFG, so it was easy to pull off. And that was it. That's our big squad improvement. We looked at our defensive record, the fact that Rodri played another 60 games and is currently dying on the pitch every single time he enters one. And and look at a very aging Kevin De Bruyne and go, yeah, let's add Savio and call it a day. It's terrifying, and I don't want it to be the case. But again, with the holding midfielder, we don't have to wait to sell anybody. We can get that in because we need one. There's a hole in the squad for one. When it comes to an attacking creative player, even if the names aren't glamorous, there are a couple of options. I think we need to maybe trim down the squad, get rid of one or two before we potentially go in for one. Again, I think Olmo is the better fit. Because if he's played off the right, there's, again, potentially a gap. If you're going to send Bernardo Silva one way, there's going to be a gap on the right-hand side. Boom, Olmo. Not the same player, but can fit the positional need better. But again, my preference is Eze because I don't think he's got like a spectacular... I don't think his injury record is clean, but it's not like Olmo's. Again, Premier League proven, release clause. Tiki loves a release clause. England international. It's just more me. But again, I just think that it all hinges on getting rid of someone. Because I don't see the squad space if we don't, sell someone. Especially when you factor in Savio coming in. That's already one more attacking body without selling anyone. I just don't think there's any room for another unless we get rid of someone, which... I'd be okay with Kovacic or Nunes, or potentially even both, leaving. I wouldn't be too pushed.
Yeah, I personally think it's going to be stick. as you were, and we'll add Savio in, and then you can share the right wing situation between Doku, Savio, Bernardo, and Oscar Bob, and then Bernardo becomes that extra midfielder that we're looking for, as well as being an extra midfielder, or as well as being an extra winger. So that's what I think. That's what I think, but it's not particularly what I want, but it kind of is what it is. Let me have a look at some of these super chats. Big up Bevo, Joe the soundboard, another 20, man. What the hell? We're getting rich today. Big up to you, Bevo. Sorry, people, I'm still dying here. He says, completely agree about the Rodri tax suit. Last season, getting Nunes and Kovacic. Good squad players, but not reliable cover. Rodri plays more an 8 next season, and Vardiol plays Stone's role to fill gap when Rodri gets forward. What do you think about that, Joe? Rodri playing as more of an 8 next season.
Does he have the legs to get up and down the pitch? He might die, like live on camera, on the Sky cameras. He might just die if he's being asked to play box to box. He can barely keep going as a 6. No. Rodri is best player in the world, maybe. Best player in the world, right?
Yes.
Don't move his position. Don't move his role. Build around him. Build around what he's doing now. Get him support. Get him able replacements so he can take a game or 2 off. More than happy with that. I don't think we need to be changing his role. Going, yeah, you're an 8. Now you go further forward. He can do that, but no, he's been like one of the best players in Europe for the last like 2 seasons, playing as a holding midfielder. I'm not jumping to changing that anytime soon. Again, he can do it, but it's not something that I'm looking at. Yeah, I'd be doing that and letting Vardiol basically play as a 6 in the Stones role. Vardiol's never played the Stones role. He's played at left back. He's played as a high flying left back. So again, I no doubt Vardiol can do what Stones does, but when Stones was doing it, he was more the box to box. He was more finding himself in and around the penalty area. I found he was the higher up player somehow. 'Cause that's a world and where your centre back is in the 18-yard box next to Haaland, because that is regular footballing activities.
I know. Guys, we're 9 likes off 100. Make sure you smash the like button. 130 here. Surely 9 of you can hit the like button and get us to 100. And subscribe if you are new around here, on the road to 10,000 beautiful blues, all in one community. How amazing would that be? Big up Piplup says, big up to you, Piplup, tonight, man. You've been great. He says, let's just sign Fabian Ruiz. He can also play DM. I like Fabian Ruiz. I do. He's 28 years old. Plays for PSG, obviously. Or is he still at PSG? Yeah, he's still at PSG. Plays 7 times as defensive midfielder last season, 22 times as a centre mid, and then once as an attacking mid. I've liked Fabian Ruiz for Spain at the Euros this summer. I think he's been really, really good. Will PSG part ways with him? I highly doubt it. Joe.
Especially with to us, we just don't deal with PSG. PSG don't deal with us.
Well, what are PSG trying to do, man? Why are they getting Kimmich in and they already have Fabian Ruiz? Isn't Vitinha at PSG? Is he at PSG?
Yep, Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, and
what are you doing, you mad, you mad Parisians? Why? Stop stockpiling, man. Go on.
Fucking Galacticos 2.0, just signing anyone and anyone. Everyone who's available. PSG won you. Like, I get it's not going to happen. He's looked very good next to Rodri for Spain, though. He's looked very good.
Oh, that I didn't even think of that. Get Rodri's Spanish partner in. Yeah,
no, it works. It's worked for Spain at international level, and I think that's kind of people putting 2 and 2 together and going, you know what, that's pretty good. That, but it's not going to happen. We don't deal with PSG. They don't deal with us, really, and that's kind of where that one ends. And there has been, when we speak about us not even being linked to Kimmich properly, it's just people throwing the name about. It's even less for Fabian Ruiz. It's just like we're picking names out of a hat now because we're running out of options.
Good shout.
It's a very good shout. I saw someone before as well. It wasn't a super chat. It was Dylan. I'd feel more comfortable with Stones as Rodri's backup if he wasn't so fragile. I think that is not the worst option in the world, to have Stones play as a 6, as sort of a backup. However, again, like Dylan says, he's fragile. He's made of glass. Like, he can't stay fit. You'd want to give Rodri a rest for a game, and Stones would be injured. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. If Stones wasn't so injury prone, I wouldn't be too pushed. I'd maybe even be thinking on, if there was no outstanding candidate for a holding midfielder, going and signing another defender and letting Stones play as a midfield player. But that's not the case, because Stones can't stay fit.
No, I know. Guys, we're 4 likes off 100. 4 people hit the like button, man. My OCD's kicking in, man. Hit the like button, get it to 100, and subscribe if you're new around here. Is there anything else we need to talk about? Oh, Savio. Savio looks like it's going to get done in the next few days or the next week. People are suggesting, because he's just been knocked out of Copa America with Brazil. Lost to Uruguay, I believe. I think it was on penalties, which is crazy. But Savio, I'm excited about Savio. For people who think that I don't like Savio just because I've never really looked at him and gone, yeah, you're him. My thing with Savio is, look, he's a young lad. He's new to the league. He's new to the country. He's making a massive step up. My thing is, just don't put mega pressure on him. And I was the same with Doku, and I'm still the same with Doku. Is just let these guys bed in. If Savio hits the ground running and Savio is absolutely phenomenal, brilliant. Oh, brilliant business. Buzzing, and I hope that's the case. But if he doesn't, don't start to buy into what rivals will tell you, which is, oh, you bought this flop and blah, 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 plays for Brazil, but is shit for City. You can already see it all. I'm excited for him. I'm very excited for it. He's a different type of winger to what we've usually had. Brazilian flair is always very exciting. So, very quickly, Joe, before we wrap up, do you want to say anything on Savio?
I think the same things that you said. Just because I kind of don't speak the highest of him and expect the highest of him doesn't mean I don't rate him as a player. I'm just tempering my expectations. That's all I'm doing. He played good season in La Liga for Girona. Different kettle of fish to being in the Premier League, Champions League. It's just so different. There is no manager in the world like Pep Guardiola either, so getting your head around the way he plays football can take some time, maybe. And again, that's what we're going to have to do. Be patient. He's obviously got the world at his feet. Like, his potential is high. He's already a Brazil international. So, again, he's a good player. It's just I'm not willing to get ahead of myself. And when we speak about signing players in attacking positions, and it almost sounds as if we're writing Savio off and going, he's not good enough, but we're not. We're basically saying he's unproven and let him take his time and let him be in and out of the team and, develop as a player. Because if you put all the expectations on him, you're going to end up with another situation with Doku where everybody's expecting him to just hit the ground running because he's in the team. Doku was forced in the team last season because Grealish got injured. That shouldn't have been the case. He played like a handful of minutes in France when we signed him. He played more within the first half of the season with City than he did with Rennes, which shouldn't have been the case. And that's the sort of thing that I'm expecting with Savio, where you've got Bernardo Silva, you've got, Doku can play on that side as well. If needs most, Foden can, but, I'm not looking for that anymore. I'm looking at Bernardo Silva and going, Savio should be treated the same way as Doku, should be in and out, given an opportunity every now and then. Be added off the bench to be a difference maker, because again, he's a bit like Doku, in which he's a winger that we haven't really had for a while. He's a bit more direct, a bit quicker, a bit more skillful, will actually try and take a man on. So that should be his role, and I'm tempering my expectations. I ain't getting carried away and saying he's one of the best wingers in Europe. Shout out Grizz, he said that about Doku early on last season. Don't know where he pulled that one out from, but I ain't getting carried away. I'm just going to let him do his business. And if he doesn't play well consistently, I'm not going to get on his case because he's a young player. That's all he is. But I'm excited to see him in pre-season because, at the moment, our pre-season looks a bit dead because everyone's on holiday.
The holiday thing's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? They'll get some rest in that. Grealish playing aside. Luke, that would excite me, man. That would excite me. Doku versus Savio versus Jack debates. Yeah, we can see it already, man. People, they did that last season, didn't they? Doku versus Grealish. It became such a bore, man. I hate that people do that, but it's coming. It's coming. And me and you are going to have to talk about it quite a bit. Big up Luke, man, with the message. Put it up on screen, Joe. Says, make sure you smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. Road to 10K is on. Soon be there. Get that up on screen, man. Good message. Make sure you've all hit the like button if you're watching on playback. Hit the like button. Leave your comments down below on everything we said. Subscribe. Help us on the road to 10k. And do check out City Luke TV as well, man. He's working great over there. I think he's on the road to 500 subs. So go and help him out if you can. And yeah, listen, we'll be back. What day is today? Monday. If anything major happens tomorrow, we'll be back. If not, at the very latest, we'll be back Wednesday. We're getting back to a bit of consistency this week. And listen, big up to all of you who've joined us tonight. It's been great fun chatting to you. And we'll do it again very soon. Wrap her up, Joy Boy. In a bit, people.
Listen to your heart. Tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe. Listen to your heart. Tell me that you understand.